down and out, riddled with doubt, had nowhere to go. Everything's moving so slow, but time's moving too fast. I hope this feeling don't last. Well, I've been away from myself too long. My body is aching from all my wrongs. And now that I know I'm not that strong, I'll keep slipping onto you. I'll keep slipping until my time is through. I'll keep slipping onto you, yeah, onto you. Well, I've been away from myself too long. My body is aching from all my wrongs. And now that I know I'm not that strong, I'll keep slipping onto you. I'll keep slipping until my time is through. I'll keep slipping onto you, yeah, onto you. I was down and out, so riddled with doubt.
am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a booger and a shooter and that shake it all go down. Baby's got a booger and a shooter and that shake it all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, baby's got it.
Good morning and happy Friday to you. Wow, that was loud. I'm a little gun shy from the last couple of shows. Both of them went tits up, but I think I know what the problem is. I hope today it goes good. Please, please, for the kids. Please, God. I was getting a little bit of fuckery there earlier, but so far so good. Like I said, fingers crossed, everything's good so far. I hope you're good too. Good morning. It's Friday. My headroom is not good. I'm gonna fix that a little bit. I do not like that. I am OCD when it comes to that kind of stuff. Old TV production guy kind of thing. Nobody on Rumble or Rockfin yet. A little sleepyhead's just still waking up. Over on the YouTubers, we got Choosy in the house. I do have a nipple fetish. That's not bad. I don't think that's a bad thing. Don't kink shame me, Choosy. Stephanie, I got a song for you because I try to do songs for everybody's names. Choosy, I'm gonna get you one soon, but I have to figure it out because I was figuring Stephanie's to be Stephanie spoken class today. You know that Pearl Jam song, Jeremy? It's Stephanie spoken class today. Hello to you too, Bella. Good to see you. You got Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show Intergalactic. He's working on a new adventure for Chuck coming up soon in the future. Who else we got here? I think that's everybody so far. Probably get some stragglers in later. Maybe. They're probably like, nah, this show's not going to be on later. This thing's going to go tits up. Like it did this on Tuesday and it did this Saturday night too. Very, you like this, Stephanie? Stephanie spoken class today. I always like Eddie Vedder's voice. I always thought, I don't know. But then Creed came along and it was like Christian Pearl Jam and it's like, can you take me higher? Disgusting. Creed and Nickelback. If there was a Creed and Nickelback concert, there would only be prisoners there because it would be considered capital punishment. Creed and Nickelback. You know why they call them Nickelback? Because they're only worth about a nickel to go see, and even when you go see them for a nickel, you'll want that nickel back. You understand? I hope you do. All right, folks. I think Kevin is doing his show. Chris Cornell's your preference? Yeah, I like him too. Soundgarden. I was going to do a parody of Black Hole Sun and call it my Black Sun's Hole, but I don't think that would have went well. not in this atmosphere. So we'll go ahead and get Kevin out of the way. I think Kevin's doing his stream early this morning, maybe in about another hour. So if you want to pop over and see Kevin, that's cool. You're not going to offend me. But make sure you're helping him out. He has a GoFundMe for his housing because his house burned down in the LA fires. And so if you could contribute to his GoFundMe, the link's down below in the description. If you can't, if you could share out the links, that always helps too. Be a pal. When we said that in junior high, when somebody would say, yeah, be a pal, and they say, what, your personal ass licker? Anyway. So when I think of pal, I think of personal ass licker. And nobody's my pal. I do my own business. Anyway, that's for another show, for another time. We got news. Hopefully we can get through this show today. Seriously. I'm very nervous. Because it always catches me off guard. I get comfortable, and then I get in that comfort zone. I get too comfortable, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're so comfortable. Fuck. God damn it. So I always gotta be on edge with the show. I'm always looking. I'm looking everywhere. I got my eye peeled on you, buddy, right there. Anyway. All right, let's get to it. Gun makers in the United States, guess what? Good news for you, fuckers. Supreme Court blocks Mexico's lawsuit against major U.S. gun makers in win for the firearms industry. Yes, indeedly do. The Supreme Court yesterday blocked the Mexican government's lawsuit against major U.S. gun manufacturers, delivering a win for the firearms industry in a test of a federal law that shields them from civil suits. Oh, isn't that interesting? That's nice, isn't it? Just like the cops. The High Court unanimously rejected Mexico's arguments that its effort to hold firearms makers accountable for the violence wreaked by drug cartels armed with their products should proceed because it satisfied an exception to the liability shield provided through the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, or the PLCAA. In the case known as Smith & Wesson Brands Incorporated versus Estados Unidos Mexicanos, Mexico has argued, you like that? A little Mexicanos. I didn't say Mexicanos. I'm not totally gringo. Mexico had argued that gun manufacturers are knowingly aiding and abetting the unlawful sale of their firearms to straw purchasers who are trafficking them across the southern border to give to drug cartels. Isn't that funny? There's people coming from Mexico, and there's drugs going. I mean, there's guns. Well, drugs, maybe. I don't know. No, there's guns. Guns are going to Mexico. So, but what if people with guns came here? But the justices said that because Mexico's complaint does not plausibly allege that the gun makers criminally aided and abetted retail dealers' unlawful sale of weapons to Mexican traffickers, it is barred by the PLCAA. Justice Elena Keegan delivered the opinion for the court, writing that Congress enacted the law to prevent lawsuits like Mexico's or anyone else's. The predicate exception allows for accomplice liability only when a plaintiff makes a plausible allegation that a gun manufacturer participated in a firearms violation, as in something that it wished to bring about and sought to make succeed, she wrote. Because Mexico's complaint fails to do so, the defendant manufacturers retain their PLCAA granted immunity. So basically what that boils down to, the gun manufacturer has to let me see how I can put this fairly. It's finally something that I wish to bring about. So the gun manufacturers would have had to make the weapons for them, and specifically for murdering people, which is just so fucking stupid. It's like, you gave me a hand grenade. Oh, well, you didn't mean for me to throw it and blow somebody up, did you? Well, but you gave it to me. David Pacino, legal director and deputy counsel at Giffords Law Center, I don't know why Giffords is capitalized, but whatever, said that while the Supreme Court's decision ends Mexico's lawsuit against gun manufacturers, it doesn't affect the ability of a gun violence prevention groups the ability of gun violence prevention groups from holding lawbreakers accountable. The justices did not give the gun industry the broad immunity it sought. Instead, they reaffirmed that the victims of gun industry misconduct can hold lawbreakers accountable in court, he said in a statement. All survivors in the U.S. and Mexico and anywhere else deserve their day in court, and we will continue to support them in their fight for justice. Between 200 and to 500,000 American-made firearms are trafficked into Mexico each year, a pipeline that's become known as the Iron River. The Iron River. We're still on the air, right? Okay. I told you I'm paranoid about this shit. Nearly half of all guns recovered at Mexican crime scenes are manufactured in the U.S., according to data from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Well, what you could do, couldn't you hold the Border Patrol accountable for that? Isn't it up to the... If they're supposed to be keeping illegals out of the United States, shouldn't they be keeping guns out of Mexico? Just saying, somebody's got to be at fault. There's got to be somebody to sue. As part of its efforts to stem the flow of guns illegally trafficked across the U.S.-Mexico border to armed drug cartels, the Mexican government sued 7 of the biggest gun makers in the U.S. and 1 wholesaler in 2021. It's seeking $10 billion in damages from the industry, as well as other forms of relief. Mexico has argued that its suit fell under one of PLCAA's exceptions, known as the predicate exception, because the gun manufacturers allegedly knew they were breaking the law by selling to known straw purchasers, and that violation led directly to Mexico's injuries, the millions of dollars in damage to its military and property caused by cartel violence. So they're saying that the gun manufacturers are responsible for selling to these middle people, right? The law was passed with bipartisan support from Congress in 2005 and broadly provides a legal shield for gun companies from civil suits that seek to hold them liable for harm stemming from the criminal misuse of their products by another person. See, people will say, well, you're going to blame the car dealerships if somebody runs over somebody in one of their cars. That's their argument for this. But it's like, yeah, well, cars aren't designed to be mowing people over. Guns are designed to shoot things, to destroy things. That's their purpose. If you never had a gun, that is. I'm just kind of explaining that to you. Okay, here we go. A federal district court in Massachusetts dismissed Mexico's suit in 2022 after finding that PLCAA unequivocally bars lawsuits seeking to hold firearms manufacturers liable for the actions of people using their product. The court also ruled that PLCAA's narrow exceptions did not apply to the case. But in early 2024, a panel of 3 judges on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit revived Mexico's lawsuit, concluding it fell under PLCAA's predicate exception that allows gun makers to be sued if they knowingly broke the law and if that legal violation led directly to Mexico's injuries. So if they're selling to straw people, that's illegal. So they're trying to get them there. The appeals court found that the gun industry was aiding and abetting the unlawful sale of firearms to traffickers for cartels in Mexico, and that the trafficking of those guns had foreseeably forced the Mexican government to incur significant costs because of cartel violence. The Supreme Court reversed the First Circuit's ruling and found that Mexico's complaint stretches the bounds of its case law. The suit, Kagan wrote, repeatedly claims that gun makers treat rogue dealers just the same as they do law-abiding ones, selling to everyone and on equivalent terms. But Mexico, she said, could not plausibly allege that is taking place in part because the manufacturers sell their products to middlemen distributors. So they definitely need to be going after the distributors. A manufacturer of goods is not an accomplice to every unaffiliated retailer whom it fails to make follow the law. Yeah, but they're selling to these illegal companies, these companies who are doing they know this. Captain Peon, let's get something straight. Guns don't kill people. I do. UHF. That's right, baby. UHF on a Friday. Good to see you, buddy. In a concurring opinion, Justice Clarence Thomas wrote that courts should, in future cases, more fully examine what constitutes the violation of state or federal law that would allow a lawsuit to fall under the exception to PLCAA's liability shield. He suggested that the law requires not only a plausible allegation that a gun maker has broken the law, but also a finding of guilt or liability in an adjudication regarding that violation. Particularly given PLCAA's aim of protecting gun manufacturers from litigation, this issue warrants careful consideration, Thomas wrote. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson also authored a concurring opinion in which she wrote that Mexico is merely faulting the gun industry writ large for engaging in practices that legislatures and voters have decided not to prohibit. The lawsuit, he said, seeks to turn the courts into common law regulators, but Congress passed PLCAA to preserve the primacy of the political branches, both state and federal, in deciding which duties to impose on the firearms industry. Construing PLCAA's predicate exception to authorize lawsuits like the one Mexico filed here would distort that basic design. The case arrived at the Supreme Court while it was in its early stages. As the gunmaker's appeal was pending, the district court dismissed 6 of the 8 manufacturers from the case. The remaining companies are Smith & Wesson and Interstate Arms, a wholesaler. So, guns. Sorry, Mexico. They've tried this again, and it's failed. America loves some guns. You know what I mean? We love our guns. I say we as in other people. I'm not a big fan of guns. I understand the need for them sometimes. But I don't think the government should come in and take your guns either. Bella says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear space weapons platforms shall not be infringed. Remember Star Wars? Remember Reagan was trying that bullshit? That seemed like a boondoggle to waste money. Just like Space Force and all this other shit is. It's just fucking people trying to scam you out of money. Meanwhile, Trump got some bad news from the court. Federal judge gives Trump 1 week to provide habeas corpus relief to Venezuelans in CCOT. That's that jail down in El Salvador. Trump administration has 1 week, 7 days to resolve what a federal judge in Washington, D.C. said has become a Kafkaesque legal battle for more than 130 Venezuelan people who were summarily expelled from the U.S. after the judge ruled late Wednesday that the mass removal of the men was unlawful. What? Somebody broke the law in government? That's crazy. Chief Judge James Boasberg of the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. ordered the Trump administration to provide the migrants with habeas corpus relief and gave officials a week to propose in writing how they will ensure the imprisoned men will be permitted to fight their expulsion and detention in court. The plaintiffs never had any opportunity to challenge the government's say-so, said Boasberg, noting that since the Venezuelan men were sent to El Salvador, with Trump and other officials claiming they were members of the Tren de Aragua, significant evidence has come to light indicating that many of those currently entombed in prison have no connection to the gang and thus languish in a foreign prison on flimsy, even frivolous accusations. CJ! Good to see you, CJ. Mini koala. Wait, what? Is that like drug code? I don't understand. Boasberg compared the ordeal of the Venezuelan migrants to Franz Kafka's The Trial, in which the protagonist is arrested for an unspecified crime. In our nation, unlike the one in which K awakes, the government's mere promise that there has been no mistake does not suffice, wrote Boasberg. A lengthy ruling that begins by quoting from Franz Kafka's The Trial, a novel associated with an absurd legal ordeal, could be a bad sign for the government, wrote legal analyst Jordan Rubin at NBC News. The ruling is the latest demand from Boasberg that the Trump administration provide due process to people it sent to El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, that's CCOT. You know that special place in your heart. Kate! A mini koala, a hello? What the? Good morning, Kate. I hope you're doing well. He issued a temporary restraining order in March after Trump invoked the Aliens Enemies Act, a law previously only used during wartime to detain or deport citizens of countries the U.S. was fighting. More on that kind of in a little bit, and demanded that the administration turn back planes carrying 137 Venezuelans to El Salvador. He later threatened to hold administration officials in contempt for ignoring the order. Sky Perryman, ooh, Sky, that's a great name, Sky. President and CEO of Democracy Forward, which is helping to represent plaintiffs in the case, JGG versus Trump, said that today's ruling affirms what every American knows: in the U.S., people are entitled to due process, and no one should be removed from the country without it. Even though we have that little place down in Cuba, you know what I'm talking about. You know the one, Dr. Everything Be All Right. What has long separated the U.S. from autocratic regimes is the recognition of this process. Well, we used to. Guantanamo, anyway. We will continue to oppose this administration's attempts to rewrite the protections afforded under our Constitution, said Perryman. Sky. Following the ruling, U.S. Representative Pramila Jayapal, that she's out of Washington, you know her, said the administration must act. Yeah, right. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I guess that's Boasberg right there. Scott Mitchellman, legal director at the ACLU of the District of Columbia, said the ruling vindicates one of the most fundamental promises of our nation's Constitution, that a person cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. At stake in this case is no less than whether a U.S. president can, at will, disappear people he views as enemies. No practice could be more odious to our Constitution. Yeah, I mean, you know, you hear about these horror stories about in these communist states or whatever, you know, back in the 80s, like, yeah, they pick you up from the street, you'll disappear, you'll never come back. And now, you know, you fast forward, 30, 40 years later, and America says, there's not enough people being kidnapped in the world. Let's do it ourselves. In April, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the administration could resume removals under the Alien Enemies Act, but said officials must provide people with sufficient notice before they were expelled. The ruling prevented Boasberg from granting nationwide relief to migrants who are detained in state and federal detention centers, but the ACLU asked the judge to consider the case of the men who had already been sent to CCOT. But that's the thing. The judge can say whatever he wants, but Trump's just going to do whatever. Trump's been doing whatever he wants. What, are they going to come arrest him? They're not going to come. They're going to come arrest his people. They're not going to. None of that shit's going to happen. But you have to keep fighting the power when the power is as bullshit as it is. Speaking of power, Trump to use emergency powers to boost U.S. critical minerals. Yay, minerals for me! In a bid to wean the U.S. critical mineral supply chain off China. See, that's a big story because China, if China decides to cut off all of our the minerals that we get from them, we're going to be cutting down some trees, y'all. Trump plans to use emergency powers under the Defense Production Act to bolster domestic production and processing of these metals vital for the energy and defense industry, Reuters reported, citing a document published on Wednesday. The Defense Production Act is a U.S. law that grants the president powers to ensure the nation's defense by expanding and expediting the supply of materials and services from the domestic industrial base. That's what they kind of nationalized all the steel. What was it, U.S. Steel back in the day for World War II, turned the car companies to make tanks and stuff like that. The White House is set to waive some legal requirements, including requirements for congressional approvals to boost the U.S. critical minerals industry. How do you waive a legal requirement that involves congressional approval? I don't understand how that works. In March, Trump invoked emergency powers to increase U.S. critical minerals production in a bid to reduce reliance on hostile foreign powers' mineral production chain. In an executive order, the U.S. president invoked the Defense Production Act, the DPA, which is the main tool at a U.S. president's disposal to shift economic activity toward national defense priorities. The United States possesses vast mineral resources that can create jobs, fuel prosperity, and significantly reduce our reliance on foreign nations. The executive order says. What they don't tell you in that statement is that most of these minerals and stuff are like under protected lands. The U.S. was once the world's largest producer of lucrative minerals, but overbearing federal regulation has eroded our nation's mineral production, it adds. Those pesky regulations. You know, without those pesky regulations, the fucking Ohio River would be on fire again. All right. Wait, what happened? Where did you come from? Also, this window just popped up, but it wasn't a pop-up from the browser. It was like, it was just like a regular thing. Anyway, the Trump administration has made American production and refining of critical minerals and rare earths a top priority. Fuck the people. And is pursuing minerals deals with various countries to get access to the supply of the elements essential to the manufacturing of everything from smartphones and electric cars to F-35 fighter jets. More so than the supply of raw minerals, the U.S. needs the refined products from these minerals that are ready to use in electronics, defense systems, and batteries. China holds a dominant global position in the supply of critical minerals and rare earths. But its grip on the value chain, minerals processing, and magnet production is even tighter. Yeah, we told you about that the other day. They got like 90%, something like that, 90% of the world's shit. Man, don't fuck with China. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. Okay. Again, that's going to be a big deal. You know, you're going to poke that bear enough, and China's just going to be like, you know what, fuck you. But they want American, consumers. They want that American market, right? Otherwise, they probably would have done that shit a long time ago, told the U.S. to fuck off. So it wouldn't be a Trump presidency without a travel ban. And guess what? Some things that are old are new again, as Trump announces travel ban and restrictions on 19 countries set to go into effect this coming Monday. I love walking downstairs. I love it. I can do it. I can do it better than Biden. At least I don't trip. Well, I might trip over my fat belly. Trump resurrected a hallmark policy of his first term, announcing that citizens of 12 countries would be banned from visiting the United States, and those from 7 others would face restrictions. I don't know anybody who'd want to come here now, knowing how oppressive it is. The ban takes effect Monday at 1 minute after midnight, a cushion that may avoid the chaos that unfolded at airports nationwide when a similar measure took effect with virtually no notice in 2017. Trump, who signaled plans for a new ban upon taking office in January, appears to be on firmer ground this time after the Supreme Court sided with him. But some, but not all, 12 countries also appeared on the list of banned countries in Trump's first term. You know those greatest hits. That includes Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad. What did Chad do? The Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, or as their friends call them, Dr. Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Especially Yemen. They pissed the U.S. off so much. You don't need rare earth for teddy bears. Aw. There will be heightened restrictions on visitors from Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Venezuela. Don't come here if you're from Venezuela, because they'll send you to El Salvador. In a video released on social media, Trump tied the new ban to Sunday's terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, saying it underscored the dangers posed by some visitors who overstay visas. You remember that guy, the Free Palestine guy who was just like the other guy who said Free Palestine? Exact same script. Yeah, that's not a psyop or anything. The suspect in the attack is from Egypt, a country that is not on Trump's restricted list. The Department of Homeland Security says he overstayed a tourist visa. Trump said some countries had deficient screening and vetting or have historically refused to take back their own citizens. His findings rely extensively on an annual Homeland Security report of visa overstays of tourists, business visitors, and students who arrive by air and sea, singling out countries with high percentages of remaining after their visas expired. Ooh, excuse me. We don't want them, Trump said. The inclusion of Afghanistan angered some supporters who have worked to resettle its people. The ban makes exceptions for Afghans on special immigrant visas, generally people who worked most closely with the U.S. government during the 2-decade-long war there. So if you were a collaborator in Afghanistan, you get to come here. Afghanistan was also one of the largest sources of resettled refugees, with about 14,000 arrivals in a 12-month period through September 2024. Trump suspended refugee settlement his first day in office. To include Afghanistan, a nation whose people stood alongside American service members for 20 years, the government did, is a moral disgrace. It spits in the face of our allies, our veterans, and every value we claim to uphold, said Sean Van Diver, president and board chairman of #AfghanEvac. Trump wrote that Afghanistan lacks a competent or cooperative central authority for issuing passports or civil documents, and it does not have appropriate screening and vetting measures. He also cited its visa overstay rates. Haiti, what you want to do? Haiti, which avoided the travel ban during Trump's first term, was also included for high overstay rates and large numbers who came to the U.S. illegally. Haitians continue to flee poverty, hunger, and political instability deepens, while police and a UN-backed mission fight a surge in gang violence, with armed men controlling at least 85% of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Haiti lacks a central authority with sufficient availability and dissemination of law enforcement information necessary to ensure its nationals do not undermine the national security of the United States, Trump wrote. Trump did not write that. Trump did not write that sentence. Haiti lacks a central authority with sufficient availability and dissemination of law enforcement information necessary to ensure its nationals do not undermine the national security of the United States. Trump did not write that fucking shit. Somebody wrote that shit for him. Fuck you, AP. Sorry. We're getting a little crazy. The Iranian government, the word's so nice they printed it twice. The Iranian government, there's a government, and then there's a government for the government. Like the United States, we have a government and we have a shadow government. The Iranian government offered no immediate reaction to being included. They were like, it just goes with the territory. We knew this was going to happen. The Trump administration called it a state sponsor of terrorism, barring visitors, except for those already holding visas or coming into the U.S. on special visas America issues for minorities facing persecution. For now, unless you're from Venezuela. Other Mideast nations on the list, Libya, Sudan, and Yemen, all face ongoing civil strife and territory overseen by opposing factions. Sudan has an active war, while Yemen's war is largely stalemated and Libyan forces remain armed. Yemen's war, is it really Yemen's war? They get bombed and then they end up bombing other people, but they don't send troops or anything like that. International aid groups and refugee settlement organizations roundly condemned the new ban. This policy is not about national security. It's about sowing division and vilifying communities that are seeking safety and opportunity in the United States, said Abby Maxman, president of Oxfam America. The travel ban results from a January 20th executive order Trump issued requiring the Departments of State and Homeland Security and the Director of National Intelligence to compile a report on, quote, hostile attitudes, quote, toward the U.S. and whether entry from certain countries represented a national security risk. Well, if you didn't make your country such a shithole country, you wouldn't have to worry about all the security stuff. During his first term, Trump issued an executive order in January 2017 banning travel to the U.S. by citizens of 7 predominantly Muslim countries: Iraq, Syria, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. It was one of the most chaotic and confusing moments of his young presidency. Travelers from those nations were either barred from getting on their flights to the U.S. or detained at U.S. airports after they landed. They included students and faculty, as well as business people, tourists, and people visiting friends and family. The order, often referred to as the Muslim ban, remember that, or the travel ban, was retooled amid legal challenges until a version was upheld by the Supreme Court in 2018. The ban affected various categories of travelers and immigrants from Iran, Somalia, Yemen, Syria, and Libya, plus North Koreans and some Venezuelan government officials and their families. Trump and others have defended the initial ban on national security grounds, arguing it was aimed at protecting the country and not founded on anti-Muslim bias. It was for the country, y'all. However, the president has called for an explicit ban on Muslims during his first campaign for the White House. Yeah, I remember that. He's like, they're coming here. I don't want them coming here. Don't come here. Don't you come here, you motherfuckers. I don't want you coming here. I think they imposed sanctions. The U.S. imposed sanctions on the ICJ judge that had put charges to Netanyahu. War crimes, crimes against humanity. Well, the ICC did the same, and well, guess what? The Israel's girlfriend, the United States, imposes sanctions on ICC judges over Netanyahu arrest warrant. Yay! The U.S. on Thursday imposed sanctions on 4 judges at the International Criminal Court, that's the ICC to you and me, including 2 who were involved in issuing an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister and current heavyweight champion Benjamin Netanyahu over war crimes committed in Gaza. Secretary of State Aquaman announced the measures which bar the judges from entering the U.S. and freezes any assets under U.S. jurisdiction, sanctions typically used against U.S. adversaries, not jurists. Oh, but it's a new day. We're gonna fuck with judges. Ooh, we're gonna get our genocide on. Fuck your judges. Aquaman defended the decision by vowing to protect our sovereignty, that of Israel, and any other U.S. ally from illegitimate actions by the ICC. The remarks signal an escalation in Washington's campaign to shield Israeli leaders from accountability for crimes committed during their ongoing assault on Gaza, like the gun manufacturers. You remember that story from like a few minutes ago? Bibi praised the decision, thanking Trumpy and Aquaman for standing up for the right of Israel, despite growing international consensus that Israel's conduct in Gaza may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. And we got a little poll coming up for Israel coming up later that it's quite surprising. Meanwhile, the ICC condemned the sanctions, calling them a clear attempt to undermine the independence of an international judicial institution. The court, based in The Hague, operates under a mandate ratified by the 125 state parties, including many key U.S. allies, but not the U.S. The sanctioned judges, Betty Holler of Slovenia, Rain Alapini Gansu of Benin, Luz del Carmen Ibanez Carranza of Peru, and Solomon Balungi Bosa of Uganda were involved in proceedings related to both the war on Gaza and U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan. Human Rights Watch condemned the sanctions as an attempt to deter the ICC from seeking accountability amid grave crimes committed in Israel and Palestine, particularly as Israeli atrocities in Gaza mount with direct U.S. support. Money, 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 money! Money! And don't forget propaganda, too. The Gaza investigation resulted in arrest warrants for both Netanyahu and former Israeli Security Minister Yoav Gallant. The court said there were reasonable grounds to believe the two were criminally responsible for war crimes, including the use of starvation as a weapon of war, which is going on right now. Although neither the U.S. nor Israel are parties to the Rome Statute, the ICC has jurisdiction over crimes committed in Palestine, a state party since 2015. The court also holds jurisdiction over any crimes committed on the territory of member states or by their nationals. Former U.S. President Sleepy Joe had adopted a more cooperative tone towards the ICC, particularly during its investigation into alleged Russian war crimes in Ukraine. Oh, yeah, he was good for that. Under Secretary of State Antony Blinken, that fuckface, the U.S. lifted Trump-era sanctions on court officials and expressed support for international justice on a selective case-by-case basis. However, This posture shifted dramatically once the court turned its attention to Israeli officials, including Bibi. The same administration that welcomed the ICC's pursuit of accountability in Russia echoed the rhetoric of delegitimization when similar standards are applied to its ally, Israel. Ain't that funny how hypocrisy works? If you still trust your government for anything, yeah, I'm sorry. I feel really bad for you because, yeah, there needs to be accountability for this. And the United States is damn sure going to try to shirk that responsibility as much as possible. We didn't do anything. You know, they were like, it's them. It's them. It wasn't me. It's them. But Israel being Israel, we got to talk about all the fuckery they're doing. Israel launches several attacks on Beirut's southern suburbs, South Lebanon. A series of Israeli strikes have targeted Beirut's southern suburbs on the eve of the Muslim Eid al-Adha holiday, almost an hour after the Israeli army issued a forced evacuation order to residents in areas that it says held underground facilities used by the Lebanese group Hezbollah for drone production. Ah, that's right, the Hamas of Lebanon. The attack on Thursday is the fourth time Israel has bombed Beirut since a ceasefire with Hezbollah went into effect in November. Beirut's holding up their end of the ceasefire, but it's Israel who's not. It has carried out assassinations and announced strikes that it said targeted Hezbollah sites. Israel has violated the ceasefire on a near daily basis for 7 months, according to the Lebanese government, led by President Joseph Aoun. Arab nations and right groups. Aoun has recently appealed to the U.S. and France to rein Israel in. Yeah. Talking deaf ear. Aoun, in a statement yesterday after the strikes, voiced firm condemnation of the Israeli aggression and flagrant violation of an international accord on the eve of a sacred religious festival. Before the attacks, Israeli military spokesman Avicii Adre, I swear to God, that's pig Latin, Adre. Okay. Had ordered residents living near buildings in the neighborhoods of Hadath, Haret, Hrik, and Burj al-Barajne in the Dahia suburbs to evacuate. Ooh, navigated that little verbal linguistic minefield there. That was nice. You're next to infrastructure belonging to Hezbollah, Adre said in a social media post, which included a map of the 8 buildings being targeted in 4 different locations. The message in Arabic indicated that Israel would soon bomb the area. It says you're next to infrastructure belonging to Hezbollah, and then they just show a whole map of Lebanon. After the evacuation order, Lebanese media reported the area was nearly emptied of inhabitants who had been preparing to celebrate Eid al-Adha. It was sealed off as warning strikes could be heard, the report said. The Wafa news agency reported that 100 housing units were destroyed in Israel strikes on southern Beirut. Later Thursday night, Israeli strikes also targeted the southern Lebanese village of Ain Kana, according to Lebanese state media, shortly after further Israeli army evacuation warnings were issued for the area. Ain Kana is located in the east of the coastal city of Sidon. Al Jazeera's Zina Coder, reporting from Beirut in the immediate aftermath of the strike, said there was heavy traffic here as people were making their way out. As you can imagine, this did cause a lot of panic. This is not the first time the army has carried out airstrikes in Beirut's southern suburbs since a ceasefire came into force last November, but this is the largest attack. Coder said up to 8 buildings were targeted in 4 densely populated neighborhoods, adding that the magnitude of these airstrikes meant all the area's residents had to flee. Analyst Rami Khouri told Al Jazeera that the attack was no surprise, as Israel has been assassinating people over the last 3-4 months. They continued occupying 5 places in South Lebanon and the ceasefire agreement. The Israelis have always used military force as their main instrument to get their foes to submit to them, he said. But the irony is that it hasn't worked. It has only generated a great dissent, and we'll have to see in Lebanon what it means. Hezbollah took a hit last year, and they're obviously regrouping, he said. We don't know exactly what they're doing, but they are regrouping. Yeah, that's the thing. All you're doing is if you think these people are terrorists, if you're one of those people like these terrorists, why do you think terrorists are made in the United States? What you think a terrorist is. If this same shit was happening to you in America, you wouldn't say you were a terrorist. You'd say you were a fucking freedom fighter, trying to keep these people from fucking erasing your, culture. Video verified by Al Jazeera's Sanad agency showed people hurrying away after the evacuation warning. This is it right here. I don't know if this is going to play or not. I don't know if it is or not. We'll see. There we go. This is them leaving. Yeah. The Israeli military accused Hezbollah of manufacturing drones in the area in a blatant violation of the understandings between Israel and Lebanon. But let me guess. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not even going to read any further yet. Because let me guess. So they said that they had these weapons manufacturing places underground, right? And let me guess. They have no evidence of it. I bet you. Zero evidence. A Hezbollah official denied that there were drone production facilities at the targeted locations. The Israeli military will work to remove any threat to the state of Israel and its citizens and prevent any attempt to reestablish the terrorist organization Hezbollah, it said. If you talk to people here, what they will tell you is that this is terrorism, said Coder, as Israel warns people to leave in the middle of the night and on the eve of a major religious holiday. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam also issued a statement condemning the strikes. He called on the international community to deter Israel from continuing its aggressions and compel it to fully withdraw from Lebanese territory. The Lebanese army on Friday condemned the attacks and said it may suspend cooperation with the committee monitoring the Israeli-Hezbollah ceasefire. They should put ceasefire in quotes. The Israeli enemy violations of the deal and its refusal to respond to the committee is weakening the role of the committee and the army, the Lebanese army said in a statement. It said such attacks by Israel could lead the army to freeze its cooperation with the committee when it comes to searching posts. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz hailed the strikes on Beirut. We will continue to kill people and babies. We will continue to enforce the ceasefire rules without any compromises and will not allow any entity to create threats against the northern communities and all citizens of the state of Israel. That's so sweet of you, Katz. The 14-month war between Israel and Hezbollah killed more than 4,000 people in Lebanon, including hundreds of civilians. The Lebanese government said in April that Israeli strikes had killed another 190 people and wounded nearly 500 since the ceasefire. 17 more today, but as of yesterday, Israeli attacks killed 67 Palestinians in Gaza over 24 hours. Like you see, you add about 20 to that now, 17 to 20. So close to 90 people over the last 36 hours. This is Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. Be sure you're supporting them, antiwar.com and the Libertarian Institute. They do great independent journalism over there, and they're always trying to provide as much information from other sources as well. So appreciate y'all over there. Gaza's health ministry said Thursday that Israeli attacks killed at least 67 Palestinians and wounded 189 over the previous 24-hour period as U.S.-backed Israeli strikes continue to pound targets across the Strip. Desert Mantis. Starshine? With a is that STR Shine? That's very sweet of you, DM. The Dungeon Master. Good to see you, brother. The health ministry said another 3 bodies of Palestinians killed in previous Israeli attacks were recovered from the rubble. There are still a number of victims under the rubble and on the streets, and ambulance and civil defense crews can't reach them, the ministry said. Israel launched heavy attacks on Gaza City, including a strike on the Al-Ali Baptist Hospital. Oh, yes, because it's a hospital. It begins with H, so it must be a Hamas, right? A Hamas-spital, which killed 4 journalists. The Israeli bombing of Nasser Street in Gaza City also killed 3 people, including a child and a woman, because, of course, women and children are always getting fucking murdered. The Palestinian news agency Wafa reported that Israeli strikes on Khan Yunis killed at least 6 people, including an entire family. The news agency said a father, a mother, and their children were killed in the attack. Also on Thursday, the U.S. and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the GHF, you know those motherfuckers, said that it reopened aid distribution sites after they were closed for a day due to repeated Israeli attacks on Palestinians seeking aid, which killed dozens of civilians. Remember that a few days ago? The health ministry said that since Israel resumed its genocidal war on March 18th, at least 4,400 Palestinians have been killed, 13,489 were injured. The numbers account for dead and wounded Palestinians brought to hospitals and morgues, and there's the other figures down there as well. Let me do this. So guess what? Israel is arming an ISIS-affiliated gang in southern Gaza. You know why? Because you know. What was I reading from? That was from Stephanie. That was Stephanie. Okay. This was antiwar.com. Links down in the description. The list of sources that I use, not necessarily for each particular show, because some of them I don't use. But if you want to look at all the sources that I use, look down in the description below. There's like a shit ton of different news sites that I use. I encourage you to go through there. And if you have any news sources that you think, if that's not on the list, if you're friends with me on Twitter, just shoot me a DM, or if you want to email me, ExtraBulla@gmail.com, send me your news sources, because we're always looking for more. And we want to make sure we're using good sources too. Now, a lot of times every once in a while we use mainstream media stuff. Like at the top of the show, we did the Supreme Court Mexico lawsuit, and that was from CBS. But you can take that information and weed out all of the propaganda and bullshit and all the stuff that they're trying to tweak your emotions with, right? So thank you. Oh, yeah, thanks. Well, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you watching too. I appreciate all you, loving each and every one of you. So let's get back to this. So Israeli opposition leader and former defense minister Avigdor Lieberman, said on Thursday that Prime Minister Shitface was arming a gang in southern Gaza that's affiliated with ISIS, a charge that has been confirmed by Israeli officials, because they're getting away with it. No one's going to stop them. The Israeli government is giving weapons to a group of criminals and felons identified with the Islamic State at the direction of the Prime Minister, Lieberman said. To my knowledge, this did not go through approval by the cabinet. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Lieberman compared the arming of the criminal gang to Netanyahu's previous strategy of propping up Hamas as a counter to the Palestinian Authority. Yeah, he supported Hamas, in case you didn't know. No one can guarantee that these weapons will not be directed at Israel. We have no way of monitoring or tracking them, he said. An initial statement released by Netanyahu's office didn't deny the allegation. Israel is acting to defeat Hamas in various and diverse ways, including killing their children, upon the recommendation of all heads of the security establishment, the office said. Later, Assface confirmed that Israel has been arming clans in southern Gaza on the advice of security officials. We activated clans in Gaza that oppose Hamas. This is only good and saves the lives of IDF soldiers. The publication of this only benefits Hamas, but Lieberman doesn't care, he said, according to the Jerusalem Post. Israeli military sources told the Times of Israel that Israel has been arming a group described as a criminal gang of jihadists led by Yasser Abu Shabab, a member of one of the largest clans in southern Gaza. Israel has been providing Abu Shabab's gang with Kalashnikov rifles. I always thought Kalashnikov was like a ballet dancer or something. I'm thinking of somebody else. Barishnikov, that's what I'm thinking of. Including some that were seized from Hamas. According to the Times, Hamas sources speaking to Lebanon's Al-Akhbar newspaper said that members of Abu Shabab's gang belong to an extremist Salafi faction that has had run-ins with Hamas. Yeah, instead of he said, you should say he lied. Abu Shabab's Abu Shabab. Ooh, Abu Shabab. Ooh. Abu Shabab's gang has been operating in Israel of southern Gaza and has been involved in looting aid shipments. Okay. Are we back? Are we still on? Hang on a second here. One moment, please. Okay. Are we back? Okay. Let me get back to what this well, remember my thing here. Okay. Okay, so I shouldn't have done the Abu Shabab song. I'm very sorry about that. Conspiracy, the Unknown 2003. Oh, okay, cool. All right, so I guess we're back. I'm very sorry about that, folks. I knew something like that was going to happen because it's me. And yeah. So anyway, let's get back to this. No more Abu Shabab songs. Okay, thank you guys. I appreciate you. Okay. Abu Shabab's gang last year, an internal UN memo identified Abu Shabab's gang. God, I want to sing that song. The main and most influential stakeholder behind systematic and massive looting of aid trucks. Haaretz also reported last year that the Israeli military was allowing armed gangs to loot aid convoys and extort protection fees from drivers. Because sure, that's all part of the fun. In an interview with the Washington Post, Abu Shabab admitted that he and his group take from trucks, but claimed that they didn't touch food, tents, or supplies for children. We didn't steal everything. I mean, we're not total assholes.